At the beginning of this month, I posted a few Black History posts about one, Black men not being sexually educated enough, and two, how Black women are fetishized, sexualized, and it puts a hinder. And I put my own personal experience in the caption. And there was a gentleman who came and decided that I had made a grammatical error. I had stated that I had been told I was fast, and he stated that I was incorrect, that I mistakenly put the letter S, that no one could assume that I was fat. And later, having a conversation with my friend, um, a question popped in my head. Has there ever been a time in your life as a Black woman that a man has creeped you out so bad that it has had a negative effect on you, a negative effect on your life? And these are their stories. Listen to Black women.
I remember when I was in my, I want to say early teens, seeing an older man thinking that he was lost and, he looked lost. So I went up to him and asked him if he needed directions. And that's not what he needed at all. He was essentially trying to lure me with candy. It was creepy. And I stopped trying to help men of a certain age after that because older men are predators at times. So it would have been in my 13th year, but I was 12 going on 13. And I remember one of my adult male cousins, he had to have been like early 20s. I remember him saying to me that my ass looks really nice in my jeans. And I just felt so creeped out by that because I'm like, in my mind, he was like a big man to me. You know what I mean? Like he was an adult. In hindsight, we weren't that far apart in age. Well, no, we were about 10 years apart. But yeah, like I said, I was 12 going on 13. I literally was, dressed like a tomboy, had jeans on and a t-shirt. And when he said that, I just remember feeling like this really gross, weird, creepy, violated feeling. And after that, I started always wearing like a sweatshirt tied around my waist or a sweater tied around my waist, or I started wearing like my brother's t-shirts or my dad's t-shirts because they were super big and really long, just so that you couldn't see my body that way. And I think to this day, I still have an issue with like when people make comments on my ass. And it's funny because my bestie, she's always like, oh my God, you've got a great ass. I wish I had your ass and la la la. And it still makes me feel really weird. And so like I try to wear like even like with wearing bathing suits and bikinis and stuff like that, like I've gotten more into wearing like thong bikinis and like a little, it's really weird. Like I'm not self-conscious, but I'm self-conscious. But even to this day, when somebody makes like a comment about my ass or like like my thighs or like the back of my legs or whatever, um even though it's a compliment, it still makes me feel weirdish. But yeah, that definitely was something that impacted me, and it took a really long time. And truthfully, it's probably been maybe in the last 4 or 5 years that I've, started to adjust mentally about the things that I wear. Sorry, that's gonna run out. So yeah, it's really only been in the last like 4 or 5 years where like I don't wear tights, I don't wear anything that's fitted on the lower half of my body. It's really weird. Like you'll see me where like I'll wear a fitted top all the long live long day, but anything from the waist down is usually loose and free flowing because that's always stuck with me. And so even though I know like in the house I look good in like a bodysuit or like a cat suit, I would never go outside in it because it's always in my mind that somebody's gonna make a comment. And I get that it's a compliment, but it's just always stayed with me, and it's just always been something that felt really weird.
Last summer when I was dating these guys, right? And it was the older cat that I kind of like was hanging with or whatever, right? And so like we only hung out twice, maybe three times, but every time I always ended up really, really faded to the like the first time I ended up faded, I had to like I'll pass out on the car, right? And then I made my way home or whatever. And then the second time though, I was faded, and then I made it home. But when I got home, I was really sick, like with food poisoning or something. I don't know. So then I kind of like whatever, right? And then Lee came back around, and then here we are. But the thing is, in my mind, I feel like that was a sign or something. We go on the date. I picked the place, whatever. We actually went shopping a little bit beforehand. And then we went to go eat. Not a big deal. And he did all the things that I like. Like, he ordered, for us, whatever. This is and that for the table, drinks, blah, blah, whoop, whoop, whoop. It was kind of cute. The reason I liked him because I'm like, oh, finally a nigga with some education, like me. He had a PhD. He was working on his dissertation. He was working on a nonprofit that was like about like women and children and breastfeeding and the importance of that and nutrition and all this shit like that, whatever. He's like was claiming he had friends that were already on the board, lady of nutrition, whatever. I'm trying to, but I should have already known. See, this is when we be stupid. We don't be clocking, okay? We don't be putting shit together immediately. And I should have known because when I was walking into the restaurant, I literally told my waitress, I don't know this man. He like this is our first date. I need you to keep eyes. Like, and she was like, bet, heard. Like she was on the table. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the entire time you would think you have a PhD, you have this nonprofit, you have all this education. I doing my master's then. I have the same, thing. I have my nonprofit, whatever. We would have so much more to talk about. No, this nigga just has to talk about sex and fucking and how this, whatever, and how he likes it and what style, whatever. No matter how much I curtail the conversation back to his nonprofit, back to anything, he wants to talk about that. I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Okay, because I was still in my nice era. You don't see me doing the era where I'm doing the quotes and where I was like, okay, I'm gonna still end the date properly. I'm not gonna just disappear. Now I do, but I'm not gonna disappear. I'm gonna go ahead and let you walk me to the car and everything. And this nigga took me to the car, and this is the creepy part. So this nigga takes me to my car, and walks to the car. I open the door and I'm trying, how you open the door like you done with the conversation. I'm like, yeah, this and that. This nigga, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life, is telling me about a story that he's like, yeah, I don't even know how we got on this. Like, Chris, I have no idea. He's like, yeah, because I was once with my ex girlfriend, and we were having sex, and her sister, like, she passed out. So the girl he having sex with passed out because it was just so good, and they were going all night long, this and that. The sister came in, and the girl was passed out, and he's like, oh, we got to get something to wake her up. The sister threw water on her sister to wake the sister up. They, like, stopped having sex or whatever just to wake up. This is a story he's telling me.
Girl, first of all, good morning. I had to start this voice note over because I realized I have too many stories. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I wish I had zero or even just one, but that's just not the truth, especially when you're a black girl. One of them came to my mind when you were talking about your best friend, which is I had that same instance, but unfortunately the man didn't even speak to me. He was just following me home from school. And I remember, I feel like I remember seeing his car or seeing him before. There was like a rec center that was like real popular in my neighborhood. And there was it was a Vons grocery store next door. So I was real familiar with like the walk home, But yeah, this nigga like followed me home or tried to follow me home, but there was a McDonald's that I was real familiar with. So I ran in there and I went up to this Mexican lady, and she kind of thank God, she put two and two together, and I just pretended like I was with her. And he, like, went away. But what I will say is one of the things that stands out to me the most is the predatory behavior that I see adjacent to family or even within the family sometimes, which is like I remember being a little girl and I used to hear this a lot. Like I remember just hearing it so much that it felt normal, and that it gave me a complex when I got older, which I'll get into that. But um it was as I used to hear like, oh, that's Maria's daughter. She looked just like her mom or whatever. And then it kind of went into comments on my shape, or, oh, she's going to be so pretty when she gets older. She's going to be a heartbreaker. She's going to be this. She's going to be that. And then when I kind of went into like preteen, it was, it just felt more sexualized based off the vanity of how I looked. And it was like they were fetishizing what I would look like when I got older. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So that's probably my most consistent story. That I feel like really stands out in like my girlhood and just creepiness. And I think that's also why I shied away from men for such a long time.
And thank you to all the women who shared their voices.